Chapter 13. Marco. Tobias came shooting down toward us. He wanted to make sure we knew. It's coming! I was halfway into morph. Can I use thought speak yet? I decided to try. We hear you, Tobias. I can see it. Finish morphing, Jake yelled in my head. Better to face this thing as wolves. I was trembling with fear. I had faced this thing once already that day. I wasn't interested in facing it twice. But Jake was right. Better to fight as a wolf than as a human. And this time, Jake was with me. I was on all fours. I could feel the wolf's strength. I could sense the intelligence and instincts of the wolf's brain. All the wolf's incredible senses were mine. When I looked up to see the beast forming, I knew the wolf wasn't nearly enough. No animal morph could fight this thing. Look at it, I cried. Yeah, Jake said. He was trying to sound brave, but Jake's been my friend for many years. I know when he's scared. He was scared plenty. Here it comes. The beast of 100 mouths and 100 whirling blades came for us. There were treetops in the way. The beast shredded them. Brrrr. We ran. It would have been stupid to do anything else. My powerful wolf's jaws were nothing to this beast. I ran, and I ran fast. Wolves have pretty good speed and incredible endurance. A wolf can run for hours, all day if necessary. But I didn't think I would get the chance to run that long. The beast dropped just a few feet above the ground, leveled off, and came after us. The trees were close together. Too tight for the beast to fit through, so it simply shredded anything in its way. Brrrr. The noise was shocking. I ran. I leapt over fallen logs. I dodged around trees. I counted on my rough gray coat to protect me as I ripped straight through thorn bushes. Brrrr. The beast ripped a path 50 feet wide through the forest. It was like some nightmare lumberjack. It reduced trees to twigs and splinters in seconds. Wood shrapnel flew everywhere. It's gaining, I said to Jake. Little by little, it's gaining. The trees, it destroys them. But they slow it down, just enough. More trees, thicker trees, I yelled. I looked wildly around at the world washed pale by a wolf's poor color vision. There were trees everywhere, too many. I didn't know which way the forest grew denser and which way it might thin out. But the wolf knew. The wolf's own instincts led the way. Jake and I both felt it, I guess, because we began turning north. Brrrr. The trees grew thicker, and there were more of them. The beast chewed its way after us, but it was no longer gaining. It was not falling behind, either. Jake, Marco, what are you doing? Tobias yelled. Heading for denser woods, Jake said. Maybe it'll slow this thing down. It's getting thicker up ahead, Tobias agreed. But you better hope it wears out soon. Why? I said. Because you have a quarter mile of woods, and then it opens up into a meadow, Tobias said. Open grass. Jake and I said nothing. We didn't have to. We both knew if the beast didn't tire out before we came into the open country, it would catch us. And it didn't seem tired. Just then, as terrified as I was, I smelled something that set off deeper alarm bells in the wood's mind. Smoke. There was a fire not far away. Into my acute wolf's ears came the faintest sound of a human voice screaming. Just as if the beast had heard the same faint cry, I saw the monster shudder. It hesitated. Jake, look. The beast wavered and slowed. I could see the meadow through the trees, the meadow where we would surely die. Except that now the beast was wavering. Suddenly, it turned away. It turned toward the place that smelled of fire and smoke. Chapter 14. Rachel. Ah! I cried. I was in a shower of flames, as bits of wood and fabric fell around me. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't see. But I could hear an insane grinding noise from deep within my own body, and I knew that I was changing. In all my despair, I could feel the power flowing through me. Awesome power. But was it enough? I waited as long as I could. I wasn't done changing, but the heat was too great, and the thing that I was becoming hated the fire. A sudden surge of muscles, a forward rush. I slammed into the half-rotted logs. Crunch! The logs broke from the force of my huge body. The logs that had imprisoned me were mere sticks now. I hurled through them and away from the burning shack. At that moment, the shack collapsed on itself in an explosion of sparks. I stood panting. I stood on 4 legs. I looked down and saw front paws where hands should have been. My paws were covered in coarse brown fur, very shaggy, and I had long, sharp black claws. Flash! A bear on its hind legs, roaring and swinging its mighty paws. Creatures all around, like walking razor blades. They came for the bear. Came for me. Yes, I thought. Grizzly bear. That was it. I had become a bear. Was still becoming a bear, because the morphing was not completely done. What am I? I shouted. But the sound that came from my mouth was not human. What kind of creature was I? How could I do this? How could I become a different animal? It was insane. Insane. Maybe it was that simple. Maybe I was as insane as the woman who had burned down her shack to kill me for being a yerk. Was that it? Was I a yerk? What was a yerk? Suddenly, I heard a wild rush of wind. Not from the burning, crumbling cabin. From above, up in the air. I looked up, but my human eyes were changing to bear eyes, and I couldn't see very well. I only saw a large shadow hovering above me. A flash of swift movement. It was attacking. The last of my human body was gone, and now I felt the full force of the grizzly bear's own mind. It was unafraid, and more than that, it was angry. No one attacked a grizzly, not if they wanted to live. I reared up on my hind legs. I must have been 10 feet tall, and I knew I was mighty. Rah! I roared. I swung my massive paw at the hovering beast. But then a second flash of movement. Another animal, racing swiftly toward us. Rachel! Rachel, is that you? A voice demanded. A voice I did not truly hear except inside my head. I looked at the new creature. It had come to a stop just a dozen feet away. I peered at it with my dim bear vision. It had 4 legs, like a horse or a deer. But it seemed to have a head and upper body that was almost human. And there was a tail. I was sure of that. The tail was cocked back, like a weapon, ready to be fired. For a frozen moment of time, we all 3 waited. Me, the beast in the air, and this new apparition. Rachel! Rachel! Is that you in Morph? It's me, Axe. Rachel? I asked silently. Is that my name? And then the beast, made of dust, attacked. Chapter 15. Axe. My name is Aximili Escaruth Isthel. I am an Andalite. It was my brother, Prince Alfangor, who gave the humans the power to morph. He had been injured trying to drive the Yurks away from Earth. And, when he crash-landed his fighter, it was Jake, Rachel, Tobias, Cassie, and Marco who found him. It was Visser 3 who killed my brother. So my human friends have told me. Someday I will avenge that death. I must kill Visser 3 or be dishonored. Later, Jake and the others found me. I was the last surviving Andalite from our great dome ship. I am not one of the Animorphs, but I fight alongside them against our common enemy, the Yurks. And while I am on Earth, I have taken Jake for my prince. I had gone along with Marco and his foolish venture to the home of the human named Darlene. I knew it was foolish, but I thought it would be better for Marco to have someone with him. Marco is highly intelligent, but he is also very afflicted by a condition the humans call sense of humor. I have noticed that Marco's sense of humor sometimes makes him do strange things. But when the great beast from the sky appeared, I was powerless. Later, the humans asked me for answers. Did I know what this beast was? The humans assumed that I must know every terrible thing that lives in this vast galaxy. But I did not know this creature, and it frightened me. When we set off to find Rachel, I traveled through the woods. I live in the forest now. It is my new home. I ran steadily to reach the place where I was to meet up with Tobias, Jake, and Marco. Then I detected the smoke. I looked up and saw a pillar of smoke rising through the trees. My eyes swept around me, checking every direction. I must always be very careful not to be seen by humans. One stalk eye followed the pillar of smoke into the sky. And then I saw not smoke, but dust. Dust that blew faster than any wind. The beast! It was coming again. I ran faster than before with all of my speed. It had to be looking for me. It had come to hunt me down, I was sure of it. Where should I run? Not toward where Jake and Marco were supposed to be. I could not lead the beast to them. But the fire, maybe the smoke, would hide me. Yes. I raced toward the smell of smoke. My hooves flashed. My tail was tucked down tight against my back for speed. I saw a small clearing, and in the clearing, a pillar of flame. A building of some sort. It was burning rapidly. The heat blasted me. I could hear the noise of dry wood snapping and popping, flames sucking at the air. But there was a greater noise. The beast, above me, above the fire. It swirled and roared like a storm. And then I saw another creature. It was an earth animal called a grizzly bear. It reared up on its hind legs and bellowed defiance. But that mighty voice was swallowed up in the hurricane howl of the dust beast. A grizzly bear. Rachel had a grizzly bear morph. I had seen her use it. It had to be her. Rachel, is that you? The huge bear swung its massive head to glare at me, but there was no thought-speak answer. Rachel, is that you in morph? It's me, Axe. Rachel, is that my name? Suddenly, the dust beast attacked. In a rush of hurricane winds, it descended on Rachel. Not on me, but on Rachel. It was her the beast wanted. She stood firm, unafraid. Rachel, I cried, run, you can't fight it. The beast of 100 gnashing mouths descended on the bear. The bear swung a massive paw. It was a blow that would have knocked my head from my shoulders. A blow that would have punched through steel. The claws raked the dust beast's closest mouth. Roar! The beast cried in sudden pain. Its paw was gone, simply gone. In its place was a shattered, bloody stump. What could I do? I was desperate. My tail was my only weapon, but the creature would simply grind it off as he'd done with Rachel's paw. Rachel bellowed in pain from her awful wound, but she struck again, still standing erect and defiant. She struck again with her other paw. This time, the entire leg was gone, and now I could see human terror shining through the bear's eyes. Rachel! I cried in despair. My Andalite tail was useless. I needed something else. Anything. I searched my memory. What morph did I have to fight this monster? Nothing. Nothing. Rachel's bear was one of the mightiest morphs we had, and she was doomed. There was nothing left now but to escape. No, not to escape. To follow this creature. To find where it hid. To find where it came from. I had an earth bird morph. It was called a harrier. It was very fast. I could morph and perhaps be able to follow this monster. Because one thing was certain, I could not save Rachel. The dust beast descended on Rachel. It enveloped her completely. I could no longer see her. It was as if the cloud was swallowing her up. The beast shifted and flowed and reformed to engulf the raging bear that was my human friend, Rachel. Shaking with fury and horror, I began to morph. And suddenly, with a speed that was shocking, the dust beast stopped. It lifted away from Rachel. It exploded upward, away from her, and came at me, right at me. And in the few seconds left to me, I realized the morphing. It was the morphing. That's what it was after. It was reacting to the morphing. It was the morphing energy itself that drew the beast. It lifted from Rachel. I had a flash of her bare body wrapped in living ropes. The beast had not killed her. It had wrapped her up as if wrapping a gift. The living ropes dissolved to rejoin the dust beast and become part of it. 100 mouths and 1,000 whirling blades descended upon me. Now it was after me, and I knew that if I struck it with my tail, it would leave me with a bloody stump. I could not fight it. To fight would be to be shredded. I stood still. I reversed the morph and regained my complete Andalite form. I felt the beast around me. It suffocated me. It choked me. It wrapped me tightly in a cocoon till I could not move an inch. I felt myself being lifted up from the ground, up and up, faster and faster, unable to see, able only to hear the wild winds of the beast itself. But now I understood. I knew where it was taking me. I knew the purpose of the beast. And with a fear that chilled me to my bones, I realized that I knew its master's name.